All right, let's get into waiver wire, guys. Rondale Moore, only 35% rostered. 7 catches on 8 targets for 92 and a touchdown, like we talked earlier. You could do a lot worse than that if you're looking to fill a receiver gap. I may be going after him this week, just to give you an example.
I think you absolutely should be. I think a lot of people cut him after the useless Thursday Night Football where they started him. They were angry. They watched him on primetime do nothing. But this team clearly wants to get the ball to him. 77 of the 78 snaps, 52 route runs, 8 targets, only trailing DeAndre Hopkins, but great to see him getting re-involved as well with 2 carries. So versatile talent, very explosive. You can see the ball when he had the ball. It really pops when he has it. So yeah, I'm really big fan of Rondale Moore. So I lost my place here.
I've been there.
Big fan of Justin Fields, 41% rostered right now, 26 fantasy points, a season high. He had 8 rush attempts, 60 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. They're dialing him up in the red zone a lot, and he just always nice for the defense, looking great. 2 touchdowns. This now marks 4 straight weeks. He's been a top 12 quarterback. Seems to really be rounding into form and getting comfortable just in time for his 3 softest matchups of the year. 3 straight bottom 5 defenses he's facing. Love to see it for Justin Fields. I've got Miami next week, 5th most points allowed. Detroit, the 4th most, and Atlanta, the 2nd most. Juicy slate of games coming up. Would be throwing the hammer down to get this guy if I was a quarterback needy team.
We talked about Jaylen Warren earlier, so a lot of this is probably going to be a little repetitive. He's only 5% owned. He's obviously now sharing the backfield with Najee. He's not in danger of taking this backfield over unless Najee gets injured. But, I mean, he is getting carries. He is a 3rd down guy, it seems. So, if you need to fill a hole for a week or maybe take a stab at something moving forward, might not be the worst guy you could pick up. Like I said, he's not going to be a bell cow or anything, but he is getting touches now.
If injury strikes, though, we do know Mike Tomlin loves riding his bell cows typically. I think this is a top 3 handcuff with some standalone upside should he maintain that 3rd down role. 7 of the 9 3rd down snaps, really eating into Harris's workload here. And why not? He's outperformed in 50 yards, 8.3 yards a carry on his 6 attempts, compared to just 32 yards for Najee on 8. Also had 25 yards on just his 3 catches, compared to just 26 yards on 6 catches for Najee. Terrace Marshall, 1% rostered, a guy you can continue to look at. 9 targets, pretty solid workload. Had 4 catches, 87 yards. Not a bad 10.7 points, but looked really explosive after the catch. Nearly scored on that 39-yard strike that did lead to Donta Foreman getting a pound-in opportunity. But encouraging performance for a guy in an offense that has dire need for weapons to emerge here. So solid day for Terrace Marshall.
Latavius Murray is 40% owned. We said he rushed 14 times for 46 yards and a score in London. I mean, the Broncos offense just in general, I'm not particularly interested in, but he's getting more and more touches. They don't trust Gordon. You get the impression, like you said the other time we recorded, get the impression the coaching staff does not like Melvin Gordon particularly. So, if they're going to rush the ball, it's probably going to be with Murray moving forward, I think.
Yeah, 14 carries to 9 for Melvin Gordon, and he's been the goal line back in back-to-back weeks here with no Mike Boone. I think he's a usable flex play type of guy.
Usable.
Low ceiling, but it's better that you're going to get like 6 to 11, and that's about it. But sometimes that's what you need, given the matchups. On the Broncos, though, that I am pretty intrigued by is Greg Dulcich. 5 targets, 4 catches, 87 yards. He's 42% rostered. This is now 3 straight weeks. He's only been on an NFL field for 3 weeks. He's been a top 12 tight end for all 3 of them. He looks really good, smooth athlete. Was labeled as a big body, like wide out type of tight end that was not known for his blocking. That's not why he's on the field right now, leading the team in tight end snaps, leading the team in receiving yards. Now 2 of his 3 weeks. This guy's solid. I really like Dulcich. You need a tight end. That 20% target rate is pretty damn solid. Really like Greg Dulcich here.
Caleb Huntley, 4% owned. He actually rushed 16 times for 91 yards in the Falcons' Week 8 overtime win over the Panthers. He was splitting carries pretty much down the middle with Tyler Algier. A lot of these backfields are just 50-50 messes right now, huh?
Yeah, and then Cordarrelle Patterson's going to be coming back to this one and make it nasty. So that's why you're not going out there and blowing a ton of money on Huntley. But we have at least one more week till Patterson returns, so Huntley could be that little stopgap option when they have tight games like they did with the Panthers today. He's going to see about 12 to 15 carries, and there's a spot for that in most fantasy leagues. So could be checked out. I'd prefer Algier, who's 54% rostered. So he didn't make the cutoff here, but he did get cut by a bunch of leagues with the impending Cordarrelle Patterson activation. He's more involved as a receiver. Just overall, the better, like, seems a little more explosive. Honestly, both these guys are getting it done, though, in Patterson's absence on a team that likes to run it. Both worth looks if you need a fly-in, fill-in Hail Mary here. The other type of ads we wanted to talk about were some trade deadline speculations. So Elijah Moore, a lot of people are going to cut him based on how frustrated they are. I would hold if you have him. He's 40% rostered right now. If he gets traded to, say, the Packers, maybe the Chiefs. I know they traded for Tony, so probably unlikely. Rams are in the market for receivers right now, though, too, especially if something does happen to Kupp and he has to miss a few weeks. Elijah Moore, I think, is still an insane talent. Would love to see him in a riper situation, so I'm holding on to him wherever I have him. And Dearness Johnson, 1% rostered. It seems likelier by the day that Kareem Hunt's going to get traded. We've seen how good Johnson is.
We love Johnson.
We are such a Johnson site. So if and when Hunt gets traded, I think Johnson's going to be a very, very popular pickup. Get ahead of it. Monday Night Football, you can still pick this guy up now. You have some bench trash you want to cut. I think he's a great one.
Tyler Conklin, only 11% owned still, which is a little surprising. 6 catches on 10 targets, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, if you're looking for a tight end, there's not very many good ones out there. Why not?
Exactly. And the big thing was Uzomah had been a little bit more involved for the last couple of weeks. Conklin really took that role back over. He was killing it with Joe Flacco. He was the tight end 3 for the first 3 weeks, had disappeared since Wilson took over, but good to see him reemerge as a potential option at your tight end position, as is Evan Ingram, 43% rostered. Saw 6 targets, hauled in 4 of them for 55 yards. The big difference this week, he scored. And so he was already the tight end 16 with no touchdowns on the season. He had one of the highest target shares, was top 10 among tight ends with targets and target share. So now we get this guy finding the end zone. Could be a solid tight end, low-end tight end one moving forward.
You've been talking up Darius Slayton real quick. His last 3 weeks, I believe, 5 catches, 66 yards this week. Targeted 6 times, 3 catches, 58 yards and a score last week. And then the week before, 6 catches on 7 targets, 79 yards. I'm not sure if that's the last 3 or if that's 3 of his last 4. But the point is he's had viable outings 3 of the last 4 times. Maybe take a stab at Darius Slayton.
I know everybody thinks it's Wandale that's leading this team. I was included in that. It does seem like Slayton might actually be the most dependable wideout option. And now with Tony gone, you can kind of lock Slayton alongside Wandale for a low volume gross attack, but intriguing nonetheless. And we want to mention Andy Dalton just one more time.
Sure.
Didn't light the world on fire, but 17 fantasy points, looked real solid and capable. This offense likes to chuck. Their defense typically is not very good so far this year. So I do think we're going to see more situations like 2 weeks ago where Andy Dalton was the quarterback 2 in fantasy with over 30 fantasy points, 360 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So we know he has the shootout ceiling potential as well as a nice baked-in floor of about 15 to 17 points minimum. I like Dalton. I think he takes this job the rest of the year and can be a low-end, not low-end QB1. I'll say like a mediocre QB2, but super flex leagues and bye-week fill-ins, that has a place for sure. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.